Welcome to Broadish live on Facebook and also posted to YouTube. I'm Felicia Madison, joined by Dhaya, Jocelyn, and Hollie, and we are Broadish. We're gonna get started right away into our first topic, which is Olivia Jade. Okay, she joins Jada Pinkett Smith at the Red Table to discuss her role in the Varsity Gate scandal. There seems to be a lot of discussion over her explanation, her excuse. Was it sincere? Did she really not know what was going on? And a lot of people were upset that they were making it a race issue when it really should be more about privilege. So I'm amazed. The one thing I'm amazed by before we get started on this topic is Jada Pinkett Smith. Pinkett Smith does it with her daughter and her mother, and they all look so freaking amazing. It's just not fair. I'm like, that's her mom? Have you seen this?
Well, Felicia, maybe you should get into Scientology and you could have that bomb ass skin too.
Are they Scientologists?
Uh-huh.
Oh, I heard that was I heard that was a rumor. They really are? Because I heard that was like a rumor.
Well, I know Tom Cruise is, John Travolta and his former wife were. I don't know. We should look into it. But if I were running Scientology, I would want cool black people so people don't think it's just for weird white people. Like I want to diversify.
So what do you think of, did you guys watch it?
I watched part of it, and first of all, let me just say I love Jada Pinkett Smith. Like I love her. I really do. I've watched her since she was on It's a Different World as a 19-year-old girl. Like we've been right alongside each other, and I love Red Table Talk. I've seen some of the most amazing episodes of Red Table Talk, but this was some bullshit, as I would say. And it's just like, it brings up these feelings of me of like, I'm with her mother. Like how Adrienne Banfield, is it Norris? Adrienne Banfield Norris. First of all, this woman is fine as hell. She's 67 years old with a six pack.
Wow.
Like, Jada's mama looks good. Not good for 67, just good for the earth. Like just good. But she was like not having it, and neither am I. Like the white privilege with this is bullshit. And I can't stand the fact that little white girls like her and Trump supporting families like her parents, you know, Lori and Giannulli, whatever the hell his name is, or spit on other people, look down on everybody else, and worm their way up through the ladder through privilege and connections and just straight up lying and money, and then turn to black women to like, hey, help me redeem my image. I'm just like, no, I'm not having it. I just feel like it was nonsense. I'd rather see about 11 other black women, brown women, some worthy white women on that show than this little girl. She does her little show and just does a little tear, and then she just goes back to her little life. I don't think this girl is innocent at all. Did you see the rowing photos she took? The fake photos that she
Well, they didn't even ask about that. But before we get into the rowing photos, so I want to talk about that. The only reason I'll fight you a little bit on it, I think Jada Pinkett Smith and her mother arguing about it being white privilege. I mean, they are privileged. Their kids probably did. They probably would have done the same thing for their kids, paid for them to get into college. It wasn't necessarily a white privilege thing. I think it's anyone with money. And yes, it tends to be certain, white people.
What do you mean, yes, it tends to be? Yes, it tends to be. And the thing is, they probably would have, but there is no evidence of that. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's like, we all know that all of us have privilege in some kind of way. Do you know what I mean? Like, even though like I'm black, I'm a woman, but I have heterosexual privilege. I'm a middle class. I'm able, you know what I mean? I'm not handy. I can't even use it. I don't even know what the term is.
Person with disabilities.
Thank you. You know what I mean? So we all have privilege, and I'm recognizing this was one of theirs. They took rowing photos. The fake photos, the fake everything. And when I started realizing that so much, like 40% of Harvard University is through legacy admission, that's some serious ass rich white privilege. That is serious. So it's very much about privilege. And the girl didn't even deserve the privilege. You know what I'm saying? Like, she had everything and then still didn't measure up and had to fake her way through. They could have hired tutors all these years. They could have had her on rowing. I can't stand it. And then she comes to Black women to feel better. No.
Yeah, but the problem is, I think she honestly could have gotten in on her own accord, and she does blame it on her father. And I do have a little bit of a problem with the fact that the guidance counselor got off pretty much scot-free. He cut a deal, and you know, he was the one that was, I think, you know, listen, you know, wrong's wrong when you see it, but if you hire a professional to help you, you know, you kind of sometimes go with what they say. I think the problem with hers and the problem with her excuse was like, I was privileged and I didn't realize it.
Oh, so when she was posing for those photos, she didn't know that she wasn't actually rowing. She was just, I mean, no, you guys need to look at the photos.
Yeah.
She's posing for, and I'm like, girl, you gonna blame it on your daddy?
Yeah,
Like,
and she didn't even acknowledge that. They didn't even ask that question. I thought they let her off pretty easy.
The interesting thing is, like, to reiterate who her parents are, her mom is Aunt Becky from Full House, right? And her dad is Massimo, someone who's a fashion designer, but his last big project was for Target, so he's not like a fancy fashion designer. He's a designer for the people. Anyway, I think the interesting thing is that all universities you can pretty much get into if your parents give a lot of money, except MIT. MIT does not take legacy applications. MIT absolutely will not take you, even if your father went there, even if your mom. The reason is because the requirements for freshman year are 2 semesters of calculus, 1 semester of chemistry, 2 semesters of math. And if your daddy has money, that doesn't mean you can do math. So you're going to get kicked out freshman year. So MIT came out very specifically and said, we have never allowed legacies. We will continue not to. And my freshman year, there were 2 Black South Africans on my floor in my dorm, and they competed, like they lived in townships in South Africa, and they were good at math, and someone found that they had talent and put them in a program so that they could go to a private school in Andover, and then after that they came to MIT. So these students that I would encounter, engineering has always been the middle class way to get out of poverty, for immigrants to do something with themselves. And here's the horrible thing: Harvard just had to settle a lawsuit that they were letting too many Asians in because we're too freaking smart. So they're trying to tamp down our numbers. Meanwhile, they're letting in these dumb white people. So if you're going to do that, if you're going to let white people in because their daddy knows.
I'm sorry, that phrase, if you're going to let white people in, let's just hear that for a second. If you're going to let white people in, keep it going, Dhaya. Keep it going.
If you're going to let white people in because of who their parents know, then you need to let every qualified Asian come to Harvard. You cannot have a quota tamping our numbers down just because we study and we don't pose for rowing pictures. We're not good at sports, okay, fine. We will never get an athletic scholarship to lacrosse or whatever they play. But math team, we will blow that out of the water.
Well, the argument against that,
agree.
if they really let it be pure merit, and now Harvard is just an all-Asian campus, there's also an argument to be made for diversity of learning, right? So I do understand they can't have the whole fucking campus be Asian people. They need some quota for.
Why not? MIT is basically all Asian.
Yeah, and as much diversity of like your colleagues, right? Learning from Black people, white people, I don't know, other races as well. There's something to do with the college experience. That's also about opening and broadening your viewpoint, which is mixing with people from different races and cultures.
I mean, that's absolutely true. But then why are those same people against affirmative action for Black people and Latino people? Like those same people.
Because it always comes down to brown people. It always comes down to what we're getting. We're getting something special. No. So I feel you. I feel you.
Well, then also, where do you draw the line? Because what about college recruiting for sports?
I think that college recruiting for sports, for example, look at what's happening in Alabama. In Alabama, people are, I mean, that University of Alabama and Tuscaloosa, as well as Auburn, they get so much of their college money from sports. They're letting these 18, 19-year-olds play in the middle of COVID because sports is running their school. I think sports has too much influence in education. And if you're talking about a real diverse student body campus, athleticism should not be the number one thing that people go to school for because that dominates the entire culture of these southern schools, and they're setting their kids up for concussions. They're 18 to 22 years old and they're going to have concussions for the rest of their life because football is more important than being able to do algebra.
Well, there's more sports than just football at these schools.
But that's the one that funds all the
Right.
college programs, and because of Title IX, women get like a little bit of sports here and there, but it's just not enough to move the needle. Like Tommy Tuberville is now a senator because of college athleticism, and that's not right. He doesn't even know what the Constitution is. Like in Alabama, I had a football coach teaching me Alabama history, and then he'd go and coach high school football. The role of sports is overstated in America, and that's why it's causing so many people to be dumb.
So let me ask you, do any of you know why the legacy program was created in college?
Because most of the universities
rich
were
white men
started.
could ensure their kids go through like.
It was actually it was anti-Semitic. There were too
wow.
many.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's about exclusion. It's about exclusion.
there were too many Jews being accepted into the colleges, and they didn't like it, and they had to figure out a way to eliminate it without being anti-Semitic. So they created the legacy policy.
Wow. So
I
Jews
believe
were the
it.
first Asians at Harvard.
Yes.
And now it's turned around, and now it's benefiting us. So
Well, the other thing is that happened to Jewish people with law firms too. At the very beginning,
yes,
all the law firms were WASPy, and they would not let any Jewish people into these law firms. So then
Yep.
they had to start their own law firms. So then the stereotype is Jewish people are good at law, but that's not true. Most of these people's fathers and mothers were like blue collar workers, immigrants, and they had to create their own because no one would let them in.
Yep, I
That-
was
well,
at
that was-
the Jewish
that
law
was-
firm, Weil Gotshal and Menzies, and it was a top 10 firm. Like they made their firm like one of the best in the country.
that was one of the issues they didn't really address in the Ruth Bader Ginsburg movies, where she couldn't get a job. It was A, she was a woman, and B, she was a Jewish woman. So
Oh,
she had two strikes against her.
Mhm.
They rarely had Jewish people in the firms at that point. So so we're all not very impressed with Olivia Jade. One of the things, like I had mentioned earlier, that she used as an excuse was that her mother, who had put aside her career for a little bit, was actually in Canada when her daughter was applying to college. And she said to her dad, to her husband, "You take care of it." So you leave the husband in charge, and he wanted his little girl to be close to home, so he decided to be corrupt. So let's talk about daddy issues, guys.
Well, I mean, look at me. I'm horrible. I'm like, he's the biggest Trump supporter. So I feel like nothing for this man. Absolutely. Like when I'll never forget the day the whole thing broke down. I was at West Side Comedy Club, and you were on stage joking about it. You were like, Lori Loughlin's had a bad day. I remember that day. Massimo Giannulli, like I can't. You know what I mean? Like for someone to be such a big Trump supporter and talking about how Trump is so much, he's always looking at why do Asians have this? Why do Black people have this? Why do Latinos have this? And then here you are with the big old 57 fake out. I'm just like, yeah, okay, dude. I see you.
so I had a dad in a high position in Singapore. He was a CEO of a media corporation in Singapore. And so I did experience the kind of privilege that Olivia got, meaning he could get me internships, etc. But it never really sat well with me. And for my actual career, I did it all by myself. Right? I studied for the LSATs, applied to law school, got into a top 10 law firm. And I felt a lot of pride at doing it by myself. And I shared that with my dad. And he said, yeah, both you and your sister don't really like daddy's help.
Well, I'll be honest. I'll take all the help I could get. Like, I'll take it. Like, you got it. I'll take it. If you were like, Hollie, you could bypass everybody else for this audition you get on, I'd be like, okay.
I guess I've always had a very like self-starter streak. I remember my mom said when I was 3 years old and I was trying to do a jigsaw puzzle, and my uncle was like, "Oh, here, this one belongs here." And I was like, "No!" And I hit his hand. I picked up the piece that he put out again, and I took it back and put it myself. Like
That's funny. That's pretty funny.
Yeah, well, I didn't have a dad that was around a lot. He was a hard worker, wasn't very emotional or supportive, loved me, but I've said this before on shows where I think if you have like a father that's not that great, you're destined to have a really great marriage.
I'm so pumped. My dad is so nice.
You know, because you have a really great dad. You have these really high standards, and it's hard to meet someone that's going to meet those standards. To me, it's like I meet any guy, I'm like, you're great.
I do
That's
have one
so
guy
funny.
friend who's like, Jocelyn, if you can get a guy just half as nice as your dad, take him.
The secret, that's so funny. As you spoke about this, like for me, it's the opposite. Like my dad's awesome, and then so it gave me the blueprint of how to choose a husband. You know what I mean? So I can see how it works both ways. You know what I mean? Like if your dad is so awesome, nobody measures up, you're unhappy. Do you know what I mean? I get it.
Yeah, but I have had actually really awesome guys all the way until I became a comedian. And then once I started dating comedian, I got fucked over. So I think that's actually the lesson for me. Stop dating comedians.
Yeah, Jocelyn, just because you're a comedian does not mean you have to date a comedian.
You know what? That's the thing I finally realized after 7 fucking years.
Yeah.
I became a comedian. I was like, all right, I'm no longer a high flyer. I guess I don't deserve to date high flying men. And so I like slumped it with these comedians. And really now that I'm finally like breaking out of it and going on like these things with surgeons and private equity guys and lawyers.
Yes, girl. Yes.
Thank you. Yes. Like,
Yes.
a minute. And then one investor actually said, Jocelyn, we're not dating women for their revenue potential. We bring that to the table. So I think I needed like all this affirmation that, okay, just because I'm an artist doesn't mean I need to date another artist. Men are not dating women for their money. At least
No.
most men.
No. That's like Joan Rivers said. She said, no man ever looked up a women's skirt looking for a library card. Like,
Oh my God, that's hilarious.
Yeah, we just hold our credit cards there.
just right in the fold, right? Just
Right in the fold. Yeah.
So Dhaya, any daddy issue? Any daddy issues for Dhaya? That's like a tongue twister.
My dad and I text all the time. He's like, he makes dad jokes. He's come to see my shows. He's really supportive. He saw me featuring for Moz, and he came and he wore a t-shirt and sat in the second row, and then he started the standing ovation.
No. So
That's awesome.
He's like extremely supportive, but he's also really smart, and he never
Shocking.
Yeah.
No way.
He never allowed me to get away with things just because I was a woman. Like I got a whole pineapple delivered to me, and I texted my dad. I'm like, what am I gonna do with this whole pineapple? I don't know how to cut it. He goes, do you have a saw in your tool cabinet? And I was like, yes. He goes, use the saw. Look it up on YouTube. So he treated me the same, and he expects that I solve problems. But when I need his help, I can go to him for anything. But I think that's one of the great things is that he's so scientific. He doesn't really see gender. So in my household, my dad taught my mom how to cook because she didn't know how to cook. And then
wow.
she surpassed him, and now she doesn't let him in the kitchen. My dad does all the sewing. He also does gardening. He writes poetry, but he's also a physicist. So he never really saw gender as a very like specific thing that women should do this and men should do that. And so I think being raised that way gave me a lot of freedom, and also having a dad that I can like when I'd have weird theories, like I wouldn't want to sit down at dinner, and my mom would be like, you need to sit down and eat. And my dad's like, why are you not sitting down? And I'm like, if I stand, my intestines won't be as cramped, so I feel like the digestion will flow. And he's like, that's a good scientific argument. If you can prove it, you can stand anytime you want. So he wouldn't discipline me for the sake of disciplining me. I just had to make an argument of why I wanted to do certain things.
See, that's
Well,
awesome. That's awesome.
I have to say, based upon my theory, Dhaya's never getting married.
Oh my God.
That's not true though, because Hillary Clinton had a really good dad, and she ended up with Michelle Obama had a great dad. She ended up with Barack Obama. Jill Biden had a good dad. She's with, so maybe I'm just going to date a president, Felicia. Don't hate.
I love
Don't
that.
Yeah,
no, it's so fun.
In
Think about my
Asian
dad.
culture,
Oh, go ahead.
in Asian culture, there's this whole thing about like all my girlfriends would be like, oh yeah, I just want to grow up and marry a rich guy. This is when I was a teenager. I also want to marry a rich guy, marry a rich guy. It's like kind of like a thing that we could do, right? Just like marrying a rich guy. But my dad was like, I don't want you relying on any guy. And if you find a great guy to take care of you, awesome. But I named you. So my Chinese name is Di Zi, and it means needs to be hardworking. And all my girlfriends had Chinese names that meant like pretty rose and gorgeous pearl. And I'm like, I needs to be hardworking. What the hell does that say about my look? My dad was like, I named you that because I want you to be independent and be able to provide for yourself and not rely on any guy. And maybe that's why, I don't. That maybe that's another reason why I have a hard time like finding a good match, because I tend to be very independent, and men generally need to feel needed.
That's true.
Yeah, that's
That's
men
true.
definitely need to feel needed.
It's so funny when you think about like what your dad taught you. You know what I mean? Like looking at with Daya's dad, and then like with your dad, wanting you rely on yourself. When I think about my dad was just like really taught me my work ethic, about working hard. And I'll never forget, I was in I ran for student government in like the 8th grade, and it was Lolly versus Hollie running for like class secretary. And I look at me, I really thought I had it in the bag. I was like, I got this. And I put almost no effort into it. And this little chick, Lolly, worked her ass off and beat me by a few votes. And I was so brokenhearted. And I went home, my mom was like comforting me, and everybody's comforting. And my dad was like, you didn't win. You didn't deserve to win.
Oh, wow.
He was like, your campaign was garbage. He was like, hell, I was at the gas station. I got a brownie and a button for Lolly. Like, I didn't see your signs, like nothing. He was like, you didn't win because you didn't deserve to win.
Oh
And
my God.
you looking like a loser because you lost.
Tough love.
Hard.
It's a good lesson. Yeah, my dad taught me if you want to get something done right, you need to do it yourself. Which is why I'm in stand-up.
And which is why you just take charge of everything, Felicia. You do everything.
Yeah, it's like I need to control everything. I don't trust anyone doing anything. So we're gonna move on from daddy issues to doctor issues. So big controversy here. Dr. Jill, Joseph Epstein had an editorial piece in the Wall Street Journal questioning whether or not she's a real doctor and if she should remove the title. And lots of people have come to her defense and are very angry about it. So,
well, like,
is
he stupid or something?
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just like, really, like, I'm like, did he fall and hit his head and then submit something to the Wall Street Journal?
And for the Wall Street
Journal,
Journal,
dumbest thing I've ever, and then they published it. This is the dumbest thing I've ever heard of. Like, how dumb do we have to be? Like, I don't think she has a stethoscope. Like, get out of here. Like, okay. But you're going to start with Dr. Jill Biden. You're not going to start with the millions of men that have had that doctor in front of them. You're going to start with Dr. Jill. He thought she was the easy target, and he effed around and found out. Basically, she's not.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the thing is, the first line of that op-ed said the word kiddo in it. He would not have said that to a man. Also, by all accounts,
Dr. Joe Biden kiddo?
Yeah, it says comma kiddo. Like the first line of that op-ed says kiddo. So second, I did some digging about him. He is an incredibly sexist professor. So there have been numerous women who have said that he graded them unfairly, that he accused them of plagiarizing when it was his work, when he jangled his keys in his pocket and refused to stop. So I mean, we've talked about this when it comes to like police brutality. We've talked about this when it comes to Me Too. When a man exhibits this kind of hatred towards a woman, there is more going on beneath the surface than we will ever know. He's probably doing this to his students. He might be doing this in his relationship. He might be doing this to his daughter, but this is just the tip of the iceberg. So when we see sexism like this, we've got to call it out, because he's doing this to lots of other people, and it's affecting the way he hires and teaches and interacts with women on a whole. So this is just giving us information about what this man is really like.
Is anything going to happen to him? Is he getting a lot of backlash from where he is working, or it's just old news already? Anyone
Uh,
know?
I think that Dr. Pepper is going to sue him because they would like to keep the name doctor affiliated with their soda.
And then Dr. Detroit has got to come from the 80s, that 80s movie. He's got to come for him
Dr.
too.
J and Dr.
J
Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, both of
and
them,
Mr.
because you don't know
Hyde.
who's going to show up.
You know, I didn't realize until
all of them.
I didn't realize until my graduation from law school that I actually have a doctorate level degree. The JD actually is Doctorate of Jurisprudence. And so on my graduation, I got to go around in doctor robes. So I was like, should I go on stage as Dr. Jocelyn Chia?
Yes.
You should. You'd be like, Dr. Chia at your service.
At your service. Can I help you? Help you? Help you?
Well, yeah, talking about trying to keep women down and, when is this going to end? We have our next controversy coming up. Yeah, which is Pinterest. Okay, so they just settled a gender discrimination lawsuit for $22.5 million. It was brought on by the former CEO, Francois Brugger. Discrimination, I mean, and at Pinterest, such like a female-driven company. When is this ever gonna end, guys?
I just feel like it will end. We just have a lot of work to do. Like we just have a lot of work to do, basically.
I don't know. I'm kind of thinking $22.5 million, discriminate away.
I can see why
I would like that.
Up your skirt.
I'm just thinking about that the other day. Like also like all these women that like were like Me Too'd in the office and their bosses get fired. And I'm like, oh my God, they had to sleep with them and now they're not going to get the promotion either because the guy's gone. There's got to be, I don't know. I just, the discrimination, it's, I mean, there's definitely change and, I think it's going to be interesting how fast it changes. And also, I guess this is a little bit of like cancer culture also, like if it was the culture of society, like how much punishment should be going on and how much should there be just change? It's okay to like, people also, people have to like change and learn, but
I think that this is, I would push against Felicia. This is not an example of cancel culture. This is an example of people violating the law. They were literally treating their employees different. And the two people that spoke up, Ifeoma Ozuma and Ayerka Shimizu Banks, those are hella ethnic names. So it wasn't just sexism. There's like blatant racism occurring at this company. So I think it's completely okay to cancel people if they violate the law, if they treat their employees different. There was also a culture of like drinking and doing drugs after hours and forcing like people to socialize in this atmosphere. And so that deserves to be canceled. Like when you have a tumor, you don't say, oh my God, it's politically incorrect to call it tumor. Like you cut it out and you throw it away. And that's the part of cancel culture I completely support. You want to get rid of this cancer that's growing on our society when it treats women and people of color differently in the workplace. The one person who's doing something about it is a white man. Mark Benioff went through the entire Salesforce roster, and he looked to see if women were being paid the same as men company wide, and he really created a culture where that doesn't exist. And the only way we're going to get around this is if CEOs like Mark Benioff step up and say, we cannot treat women and people of color differently for doing the same job. So it's up to CEOs, but also the Equal Rights Amendment has never passed in the United States. So it's because we don't have representation in Congress and the Senate to do this as well. And until we change the laws, we have to enforce the existing ones. And I think lawsuits are a great way of doing it because people like this Epstein guy aren't going to change on their own. We have to proactively cancel that person and be like, it's unacceptable to be the way you are. Change or disappear.
Yeah, forget the morals, hit him in the pocket. You know what I mean? Like, forget that. You can never count on people to be good. You have to hit them where it hurts.
Well, I don't think anyone was fired from Pinterest, were they? They just got a fine. They didn't cut it out. They didn't cut it out. They just gave them a fine.
Let's see. Let's see what happened. They adopted new recommendations. They settled. They are giving $2.5 million to philanthropy. They're doing something. Well, this was a widespread issue. So what's going to happen is they're formalizing the process. They're also like escalating who gets to hear these things, because at this point it's not just a tumor in Pinterest. The cancer has metastasized all over, so they can't just cut it out or there'll be nothing left. So they have to do a radiation treatment for the whole thing.
Love this.
Well, I love it. I'm taking green radiation. I love it.
Well, I find it's a step in the right direction, and I hope that everyone is going through massive radiation treatments. So any other, go ahead, Jocelyn.
You raised an interesting point earlier about women being able to rise up because of the misogynistic culture of being able to sleep. I do have this one joke. I haven't used it in a long time, but in the law firm that I'm at, it's a lockstep promotion, meaning every year you just advance to the next level with your colleagues. You know, there's no like going all the way up to the top. So I was like, what? You mean I can't just sleep my way to the top? So there is a faction of women who were benefiting, maybe still are, from this kind of misogynistic culture. So I mean, I'm just saying, does it just go ahead, Holly?
I'm sorry, who was it? Was not Bridget Bardot? Who is it? Catherine Deneuve? One of those French stars at the height of Me Too. She was like, this is terrible. This is awful. We make this work for us. This changes flirting. Like, get the fuck out of here. Like, it's gonna feel like, that's like me being like, no, light skin privilege ruins things for me. No, don't do that. This is like, so there are women who are like dedicated to feeding that and benefiting from that. And so, yeah, they're going to kick and scream about that. But it's like, I can't be worrying about these bitches.
It's only the ugly girls who this discriminates.
Well, I mean, I've had people say to me, like, why are you a feminist? That's for ugly girls. And I'm like, oh, really? Because like only things happen to ugly girls. And like, first of all, you're not so hot yourself. Like, you know, because like, whenever men say that, it's just like they're trying to divide you. That's a way of just trying to divide you. But yeah. A lot
just trying to with you.
The same way that a lot of Black people support and uphold racism and white supremacy because they think the white man's ice is colder. There are women who will uphold patriarchy because they think that a man's backing is stronger, even with the same amount of money, same amount of everything. There are women who they're weak. They're just weak.
Mm.
Yeah, like Kayleigh McEnany and Kellyanne Conway. These people are upholding awful sexist, racist policies of Donald Trump. And and Ronnie, what's her name? Ronnie McDaniel. All of these women in the Trump cabinet are the kind of women who are like, oh, Me Too doesn't exist. Like, blah, 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 that. And, you know, I can tell.
White girl voice.
What's that?
I love your white girl voice.
I was hoping it was like just a generic dumb girl voice.
Yeah. And she made fun of my Southern accent, by the way.
But the dumb girl voice, none of you would know what it's really like. So how can you tell?
Yeah, but okay, you gotta get the dumb girl voice. You gotta have the vocal fry. You know, the Kardashian vocal. It works for me. I just don't understand.
So I don't think that Trump is really bad.
Not bad. It's just like if you could just, you know.
I love how we got Dhaya to sound a little dumber.
Yeah, it's amazing.
How do we do
it? What's amazing is that I can't do the white girl voice.
Really?
You can't do the vocal fry voice. You can't do the vocal fry.
Like I don't know.
That's good. That's good.
Oh, that's how you mean that's just how I get things when I want it from my husband? Is that what that is?
Yeah.
You gotta have the vocal fry. You gotta start with that noise that used to annoy your parents.
I have a sorority girl voice. So when I was rushing for my sororities, there was this one sorority called Tridel. and they were known as like the hot dump sorority. Their motto is this: Delta, Delta, Delta. Can I help you? Help you? Help ya? And when I was at that sorority, I was wearing this really beautiful skirt, and this girl asked me, "Oh, I love your skirt. Where's that from?" And I said, "Oh, it's from Singapore." And she goes, "Singapore? I don't think I know that store."
Oh my God.
Oh, that's so funny.
Okay.
It's hard to
Wow.
defend white people sometimes.
But I do think dumb people can be of all ethnicities.
Oh,
and
hell
all races.
yes.
Yeah.
So it's not
Hell
just white
yes.
girls. I think there can be stupid people in no matter what your walk of life is.
And these stupid people uphold things like racism and misogyny. Like, this is what they do, the dumb people of the world.
You know, I
Yeah.
never thought Asian people were ever homeless until once I saw this homeless guy in New York, and he was Asian. I was like, and my mind was blown. I was like, what? I thought there were two things Asian people cannot do: bag and rap.
You like, what happened to you? Would you like, what happened? Did you ask what happened?
I wanted to, but I thought that would be rude.
So I felt the same way. Like when I first moved to San Francisco, I was shocked. I was like, "There's so many Asian homeless people here. I have never heard of this phenomenon in my life."
Yeah.
And the first time I went to London, I saw older Indian men, being janitors at like the airports and fast food places. And the reason is because, British colonialization of India, a bunch of Indian people moved there. And so they are considered low class. In England, they're affirmative actioning Indian people. So immigration is completely different. If you're in Fiji or in England or New Zealand, Australia, the United States, Canada, and it depends when you immigrated. And it's just a completely different vibe. And so that's why not all Asians are the same. Like the people that came over during the Chinese Exclusion Act were treated very differently than the H-1B visa people who came to work in high-tech companies.
Well, it's funny because there are a lot of underprivileged Jews, and I was talking to someone about that, and they were surprised. And I said to them, "Oh, there's plenty of them. I mean, why do you think we have New Jersey?" That's where we put them all. Okay, we're going to move on, guys, to our last topic. Harper's Magazine had their list of facts from COVID. So we're going to have a little quiz and a test with you guys and see how we do. We'll see if this is Hollywood Squares. Let's see who wins. Okay.
This is literally Hollie Harper squares.
Nah.
I saw the Harper. I was like, what I miss? Oh my God.
This is your privilege right there.
Hollie Harper.
No,
squares.
those stats were crazy. They were crazy.
Okay. Portion of single Americans who have had sex since the coronavirus pandemic began.
60%.
Out of
30.
10. Out of 10.
3.
Three.
It's
30%.
a tie. It is 3. Okay. Portion of those single Americans whose sexual partner was a roommate with whom they were not in a relationship, out of 4.
1.
It's 1 out of 4.
Yeah. Are you guys cheating? Did you guys
No,
cheat?
I'm looking.
I thought we were supposed to read this. I thought you was like Professor Madison giving the quiz. That's what I thought. I thought I was supposed to study.
Yeah.
Estimated percentage.
Wait, hold on. So that means 1 out of 4 people were having sex with a roommate who was not their romantic partner. Did I get it right? Did I hear
Yeah.
that?
Yeah.
Jocelyn's
benefit.
trying to see how she measures up in this. She's like, wait, am I
I
above
never
or
know,
below?
She's like, am I right on schedule? Am I on par with people?
It's just, I mean, I lived with a girl, so I guess that would have been like a double. Like, how many people turned gay during COVID?
Oh, that's a good question.
That's good. That's a
Okay.
good one.
Okay, here, this is for Jocelyn. Amount of money that Singapore is offering couples who have a baby during the pandemic.
$20,000.
Anyone else?
I think it's 22.
I thought it was 2,000.
$2,200.
So little.
Okay.
Oh, man. Even my parents got $20,000 because my brother was born when the government was trying to encourage childbirth. So I figured it'd be at least $20,000.
But what if they took the
That's
money
good.
and then they gave away the kid? Do they still get to?
If they just like rehomed him, just rehomed him.
Oh, that's right. It's called rehoming. Sorry.
Rehoming. It's not ditching your kid. It's called rehoming. Yeah.
So I find this very interesting because I remember talking to someone about the news and current events, and it was a younger person, and they said they get all their news on YouTube, and I was like, really? So this question is portion of U.S. adults who consume news on YouTube out of 4.
I would say 2. I would say 2.
1.
1 out of 4. I mean, wow.
I get a lot. I get a lot of news on YouTube every morning. I spend about a half an hour on YouTube going through links. Yeah.
Oh, I mean, I get my news from our Broadish show, so.
Okay.
You just wait for us to come up with the topics, and then that's your news.
That's my news.
That is funny.
Okay, let's
That's
see.
funny.
Number of climate-related disasters worldwide between 1980 and 1999.
Wow.
Oh,
I don't know this one.
I have no idea.
Okay,
Let's
so
like-
it's,
I love
it's
the look of
3,656. So, and then it asks between 2000 and 2019.
I would say 10 times that amount.
Doubles.
Wow.
Oh, this is a good one, guys. And we could talk about this actually. Number of celebrities offering to record personalized video messages for a fee on the website Cameo.
Oh, what was the
Yeah. What is?
Number of celebrities.
number of celebrities?
40.
10,000.
10,000.
There's 10,000 celebrities.
Go ahead, Holly. What do you think?
Did you include D-level celebrities?
I would say a couple hundred celebrities, maybe 200.
40,000.
Wait, there's 40,000 celebrities?
This is clearly
Probably
including, like,
TikTok and
only
YouTube
10
stars.
celebrities.
Oh, this is a funny story. Okay, so I played a game over Thanksgiving weekend called Salad Bowl. It's kind of like charades, but you pick names.
That
you put them in a
sounds
bowl.
sexual. I'm just saying,
Yeah,
it sounds
yeah.
sexual.
So you pick names and you put them in a bowl, and we were playing with our family and a bunch of teenagers, and the teenage kids, it's supposed to put in a name that everyone would know, and they put in YouTuber names. And
Yeah,
we're
I
like,
can't. No.
like, like, who is this person? So
Yeah, because I have my YouTube stars that I want, my YouTube news people, and then there's the real ones. You know what I mean? But like, I'm a grown woman, but yeah, they really think these people are, and they're newscasters. And you're like, no, that's a dude with a blog.
Oh, that's
I
like
would
what
have
this
blocked.
one guy was saying. He had to explain to his daughter that Alex Baldwin was Haley Bailey's dad, and she had to explain to him that Haley Bailey is Alex Baldwin's daughter. Like, she knew Haley Bailey, didn't know Alex Baldwin, and vice versa.
Haley
Wow.
Bieber. Haley Bieber.
Oh, yeah,
Bieber's wife.
Bieber's wife. Yeah.
That's so weird to say Bieber's wife. I remember when he was 10 years old and I watched I remember watching Bieber as like a little kid. Now it's like Bieber's wife.
Well,
And
you
he-
know,
leave
Cameo,
it to Bieber.
Leave it
Cameo
It's going to be a reality show. Leave it to Bieber. That's good, Felicia.
Cameo has celebrities like Rachel Dolezal, so she's on Cameo.
Oh, okay. So like TikTok celebrities are on Cameo.
Anyone who's made a name for themselves doing anything can be on Cameo.
Okay, I didn't even know about this. Like, this is so. Like,
No, I can't
when
wait.
you,
From Broadish.
I wonder when Trump's going to start doing cameos.
oh my God.
He's
Just
gonna
like
need
Trump
make
to
some
say,
money.
to be like, Felicia, you're fired. You know what I mean? Like, you'll just
Ooh,
add
that's
the
a
name
good
in.
one. Okay, a couple of more and then we're going to end. But okay, this is interesting. Percentage of U.S. teenagers who say the events of 2020 have caused them to reconsider what they want to study in college.
36%.
20%.
30%.
29. Good strategy. Go between the two.
No, I won that one. I was one point away. I heard everybody's no.
What I find curious is though what they are. What did it change? Like, are they all
Right.
getting onto politics? Are they going to healthcare? What is it they're doing? Okay.
Healthcare. They're going into healthcare.
A sad one. An estimated amount in years of life that has been lost as a result of COVID-19 related deaths in the United States.
13.
300,000. Wait, you say percentage or
Oh,
numbers?
per person. Oh, I meant per
Estimated
person.
amount in years of life. So how many years of life have been lost based
Oh,
on the deaths?
two.
Oh, quantitatively. Oh, I don't.
2.5 million.
Wow.
Wow.
That is sad.
I will end on that. We can't end on a sad note. So
Okay.
percentage by which sales on Minibar, an alcoholic e-commerce site, exceed the average on the day Biden was declared president.
70.
76%.
Yeah, I believe it because I was at a children's birthday party, and when that came down, everyone just started drinking. We forgot about that little girl. We were just so. But I feel bad for her, but we were like, "Happy birthday!" Like, just like, yeah. So I get it.
Okay, so guys, thank you so much. This was a really fun episode of Broadish. Stay tuned for next week for some more exciting categories. I'm Felicia Madison.
I'm Hollie Harper.
I'm Jocelyn Chia.
And according to this chat that Felicia just sent me, I'm Dahay, Dahay.
The worst
Thank you,
typing.
Felicia, for being able to spell everyone's name except for mine. This is
Oh.
Dahay.
It's not my fault. It's spell check, okay?
Girl, go Dahay, go Dahay,
Bullshit. There's
go
no word
Dahay,
Dahay in the
go
dictionary.
Dahay, go
Birthday.
Dahay, go Dahay, go Dahay.
Guys,
Get your
thank
name
you for
spelled.
joining us. We are Broadish. And I can't do 6 things at one time, only 5.
What a loser.